Hello again, this is Dad History Dude, and today we'll be going over the House of Dunkeld. This is the reigning family of Scotland after the MacAlpins, and they were the reigning family for hundreds of years. I decided to do this family for this video because the House of Dunkeld actually devolved into a bunch of different branches and other clans in the Kingdom of Scotland, such as Clan Dunbar, Clan Macduff, and others. Starting with Crinan, Abbot of Dunkeld, he married Beatrix MacAlpin. This is the Gaelic form of Beatrix, as anglicized. Beatrix was the daughter of Malcolm II MacAlpin, King of Scots. Back then, there were no surnames, so Crinan, being an abbot of Dunkeld Priory, took a surname from where he lived and the lands he owned. So together, their union, when Malcolm died, Duncan became King of Scotland, their son. And this is the beginning of House Dunkeld. Together, they also had an unknown daughter, and they also had Maldred, Lord of Allerdale, who was born about 1015, died 1045. Maldred married Edith of Bemberg, which is in Northumbria today. This line would go to Clan Dunbar, which I will not get into this video. I will make another video pertaining to this line. For this video, I'm going to focus on the main branch. Duncan I, Dunkeld, King of Scots, born about 1001, died about 1040, married Susan, and together they had Beatrix Dunkeld, who married Bartolf Leslie, governor of Edinburgh, died about 1121, and he is the progenitor of Clan Leslie in Scotland. Donald III the Fair, King of Scots, 1032 to 1099, had a daughter, Beatrix Dunkeld, who married Uhtred, Lord of Tyndale. And then Maelmur, Mortimer of Athol. Mortimer is a title similar to Earl, but is the Gaelic form. He had a son, Matad, first Earl of Athol, who married Margaret, Hakon's daughter of Orkney, who was the daughter of Hakon Paulson, the 20th Jarl of Orkney. If you want to find more information on the Jarls of Orkney, I did make a video. You can go check that out. Then we have also over here Malcolm III, Canmore, King of Scots, who died in 1093. He married first Ingeborg, Finn's daughter, who died 1069. She was the cousin of Harald III Hardrada, Sigurdsson, King of Norway. This marriage was to alleviate some of the tension between Malcolm, King of Scots, and Harald, the King of Norway. Because remember, Harold still controlled the Isles, the Isle of Man, and the Orkney Islands. Together, these two, Malcolm and Ingeborg, had Malcolm Dunkeld, who died 1085, and Donald Dunkeld, who died 1094. And then Duncan II, Dunkeld, King of Scots, who died 1094. He died 1 year after his father, so he wasn't king for very long. He did marry his second cousin, Ethelreda of Dunbar. Again, this is part of Clan Dunbar, and I will go deeper into this in another video. After this marriage, Malcolm married St. Margaret of Wessex, who was born about 1045, died 1093. She was the daughter of Edward the Exile, who was King of England. And together they had quite a few children. They had Ethelred, Abbot of Dunkeld, and the first Earl of Fife. St. David I, King of Scotland, born about 1084, died about 1153. Matilda Dunkeld, who, with her marriage, became Queen of England. She was married to Henry I, King of England, 1068 to 1135. 2 children were produced from this marriage. King Henry, though, would go on to have 22 total children with 7 different women. Edgar Probus, who was also King of Scots, he died in 1107. Alexander I, the Fierce, King of Scots, who died in 1124. He married Sibylla of Normandy, who was the daughter of Henry I, right here, this one. But she was the daughter of Henry I with civil Corbett. So he didn't marry his niece. He married his brother-in-law's daughter. I know, kind of confusing. Other children produced from this marriage was Edmund Dunkeld, Edward Dunkeld, and Mary Dunkeld. Now you may be asking, why does this guy become king, or this one, or this one, or this one, any of these children in different order? The law of inheritance back then, especially in Scotland, Gaelic dynasty, was whoever was the most fit and an adult and had the most support. So we have here Malcolm, right? His first son, Duncan II. He did become king. But after Duncan II, why did St. David I become king and not Ethelred, who is older? These are the things I'm talking about. It is who has the most support. Now, there was a squabble between the brothers and who would become king when. For example, Alexander I, the Fierce, when he died, there was some support for his bastard son, Malcolm MacAlexander. But when he died, Malcolm was a child and did not have the support that his uncles did. Therefore, he never inherited the throne. Now, a quick thing about Ethelred. Ethelred married Princess Toole of Moray. Moray was a county, or as we now know, a county in Scotland today. Moray was a large part of Scotland. But for the longest time, they were very autonomous. They kept to themselves. They did their own thing. The kings of Scotland, especially the MacAlpins, really never intervened unless it was very necessary. With this union, the autonomy of Moray eventually died out, and the Crown of Scotland started meddling and putting its advisors and its people in place to bring it to heel. From this union, we have Clan Macduff. Constantine Macduff would become the second Earl of Fife, who died in 1128. And then Dubh Macduff had children who would inherit the Earl of Fife, the Earldom of Fife, and they would be known as Macduff. So this is one of those houses that became a clan, and they originated from the House of Dunkeld. St. David I, King of Scotland, married Maud, Countess of Huntingdon, in 1072 she was born. She died about 1131. Together they had Henry III, Earl of Northumbria and 3rd Earl of Huntingdon. They married Ada de Warenne and Henry, and they had all of these children. Now, before I get on to these children, I want to real quick talk about this union. As I said before, I'm not going to really get into Clan Dunbar, but Duncan II and Ethelreda, they had William Fitz-Duncan, who became the Mormer Moray. As I said, the Dunkelds started to put their people into Moray to bring it to heel. William Fitz-Duncan, when he died, the title of Mormer Moray reverted back to the crown. For some reason, his son never inherited or never brought it to the crown to inherit from his father. There was some talkings of maybe he was a bastard. Not much is known. So Donald McWilliam, who died in 1187, would go on, and this is where Clan McWilliam became and began. So back to here, the main branch. Henry III and Ada would go on to have Marjorie of Huntingdon, who married Gilchrist, the 4th Earl of Angus, and their children would be House Angus. Ada of Huntingdon, who died about 1206, married Floris III, Count of Holland, and their children would be House Holland. Malcolm IV, King of Scotland, he died with no heirs. William the Lion, King of Scotland, married Ermengarde de Beaumont. Margaret, Duchess of Brittany, married two men. First, Conan IV, Duke of Brittany, and they had children who would be House Brittany. Then Margaret remarried Sir William Fitzpatrick of Wessington, and they would have children, and that would be House Washington. George Washington comes from this line. David Dunkeld, 8th Earl of Huntingdon, married Matilda Kevlock of Chester. From here, from William the Lion, he had Isabella McWilliam, who was a bastard child. He also had another bastard, Ada Dunkeld, who was the bastard, again, as I said, William the Lion, and married one of her far cousins, Patrick the 5th Earl of Dunbar. Now, children from the actual union were Margaret, Isabella, and Marjorie, but the main one we're concerned about is Alexander II, King of Scotland. Alexander II married Mary de Cossey, who was born about 1218, died 1285. Together they had Alexander III, King of Scotland. Now, Alexander II did have a bastard child, Marjorie Dunkeld. Marjorie Dunkeld married Sir Alan George of Scotia, who died 1264. Together they had Anna Dord, who married Colbin Macduff, the 8th Earl of Fife. Again, another male relative of the Dunkeld dynasty. And together, more progeny of Clan Macduff. Now, to touch back over here on the Earl of Athol, Henry, as I said, had two daughters, Isabella. Isabella became the Countess of Athol in her own right, and her son, Patrick, the 5th Earl of Athol, became Earl of Athol after her, because she married Thomas of Galloway from House Galloway. Now, Patrick did not have any heirs himself, so the earldom passed on to his aunt, Forblaith, the 6th Countess of Athol, again, also in her own right. She married Sir David de Hastings. So their child, Ada de Hastings, she became the seventh Countess of Athol. And then the earldom fell into Strathbogie Earls of Athol. Going back, Alexander III, King of Scotland, married Margaret de Plantagenet, who was the daughter of King Henry III of England. Together they had 3 children. Margaret Dunkeld being the eldest, married Eric II Magnusson, King of Norway, then had 2 sons, Alexander and David Dunkeld. David died young. When David died, Alexander was presumptive heir to his father, Alexander III. He was going to be Alexander IV. But he also died. So all the lords and all the barons met to decide the succession. They all swore fealty to Margaret's daughter, Margaret the Maid of Norway. She was only 7 years old at the time of the succession crisis when she got on a ship from Norway and sailed to Scotland. She would die on the trip, the ship would sink, and she would drown. So again, all the lords met and decided to install John Balliol under the supervision of Edward I. All the lords of Scotland did not want to be subjected by the English. So there then came a civil war and the Scottish War of Independence from the English. There were 8 claimants to the throne. Again, all these are devolving from the House of Dunkeld. The first one, John, 1st Baron of Hastings, who was the grandson of David VIII, Earl of Huntingdon. Second, Robert the Bruce, the 5th Lord of Annandale, grandson of David VIII, Earl of Huntingdon. John Coleman, Lord of Badenoch, the 4th great-grandson of Donald III the Fair. Edward Balliol, the son of John Balliol, King of Scotland, and also 2nd great-grandson of David VIII, Earl of Huntingdon. Floris V, Count of Holland, 4th great-grandson of David I, King of Scotland. Edward I, King of England, because he himself was the 4th great-grandson of Malcolm III Canmore, King of Scotland. Eric II Magnusson, through his wife and his daughter, who were through the Dunkeld line, and his daughter, who was made Queen of Scotland. And then Patrick IV, the 8th Earl of March, he himself being a male direct descendant of Dunkeld dynasty. Now, you may be asking why there were 8 claimants, and why didn't the barons and the lords just install the next male claimant to the throne, as was with the law of tanistry? Well, by this time, tanistry, the Gallic form of tanistry, was gone, and by the 1200s, 1300s, the form of hereditary succession had taken place that the Normans introduced into England, which is why there were so many claimants to the throne. On top of that, it also had to do with supporters. Who had the most support, who could fight and win to become King of Scotland. Obviously, the Colemans and the Bruces and Edward were some of the major claimants with the most backing and support. Now, to finish up this tree, I'm going to go to the Earls of Huntingdon and how they devolved into those claimants. As I said, we had David Dunkeld, 8th Earl of Huntingdon, who had Ada, Henry, Robert, Matilda, and Margaret Dunkeld of Huntingdon, who married Alan Fitzroland, Lord of Galloway, and together their children were from the House Galloway, Isabel Huntingdon, and John Dunkeld, 9th Earl of Huntingdon. He was the last male heir. Isabel, who married Robert the Bruce, the fourth Lord of Annandale, and their children were part of Clan Bruce. Robert the Bruce, he was the competitor. He was the claimant for the war. He was the fifth Lord of Annandale. He would go on to have 6 other children with Isabella de Clare of Gloucester, but we are focused on Christiana de Bruce. Now, I've mentioned it in my other videos. I've anglicized the name Christiana. In medieval times, Christian was the female name. I've added the A to make it easier for modern times. Now, there's another introduction to the Dunkeld line with another Bruce, daughter of William de Bruce, the third Lord of Annandale, and Christine Nicutred of Galloway, Euphemia de Bruce, who married Patrick II, the sixth Earl of Dunbar. Together, they had Patrick III, 7th Earl of Dunbar, who married Christiana de Bruce. They were cousins. And now we get into the Dunbar line, the male Dunbar line, which I will continue on in the Dunbar genealogy video. So I will wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I will be coming out with more videos this summer. Thank you.